Bezras Hashem Yisbarach. Yom Shlishi, the Parshas Vaeira. Shiva Tiferes Avigdor, Tavshin Ayin Ches. I want to begin today with a story. A new story. There's a fellow in Eretz Yisroel who's the editor of the Hebrew Yated Ne'eman. His name is?
What's his name?
Yeah. His name is Yisroel Friedman. He was extremely close with Aaron Leib Steinman. He's every day in his house for a couple of hours. He didn't say what he did there, but he said he was in his house. Very, very close. 18 years before Aaron Leib was nifter, the phone rings by Yisroel Friedman, picks up the phone, it's the Rosh Yeshiva. Rabbi Leib is called. Rabbi Leib tells him, I have to speak to you right now. It was Chav Gimel Tammuz, he remembers the date. And he came running to the house. And Rabbi Leib tells him, I heard something terrible about you. The guy started to tremble, and he tried to think as hard as he can, like, what did he discover about me? And it's a pretty big rebuke. So he sat there with his mouth open, like a deer caught in the headlights. And the Baron Leib said to him, is it true that you smoke? Yes. The Baron Leib then asked him, do you want to stop? And he said, generally, most smokers want to stop. Except for the Chaim. But most smokers want to stop. And Aaron Leib said, and yet, you don't stop. It's Afal Pik and you don't stop. So he said, I haven't managed to stop yet. So the Rosh Yeshiva then did something that cured Yisroel Friedman of his addiction forever. He said as follows, you should know that there are three components, three marochas of how people operate. There are maisim, there are diburim, and there is machshavas. Of all those three, he said, what's the easiest to control? What would you say, Elachai? Which one? Pick one of the three. Nice. You got it right. He said, to control Maisim, it's the easiest of all three. It's much harder to control your dibur, your speech. And he said, you know why? It comes from a more spiritual place. And it's harder, it's more ruchni. And a gashmi doesn't have such a shlita over ruchni. And he said it's even harder to control one's thought. But he said like this, if you can't control your actions, who knows how you speak? And if you can't control how you speak, who knows what kind of thoughts you have? And a person who doesn't control either his thoughts or his speech or his actions, and he started banging on the table for emphasis, and he said, is garnished, garnished, garnished. And he said to him, hand over the pack of cigarettes. This isn't Bal Tashchis. Handed over cigarettes. Rosh Yeshiva pulled the cigarettes out by the box, by the silver inner wrapping, and he crushed them, and he said, you will no longer smoke again. From that moment on, Yisroel never touched a cigarette. What's more, he never had the typical withdrawal symptoms. It was as if I never smoked. Yeah. And he was looking back and thinking, what was it about Rosh Yeshiva, he said, that made such an impact on him? He said he gave up a lifetime addiction to Arafai, and he thought to himself when he said, Was bin ich? What am I? Garnished. The Rosh Yeshiva thinks I'm garnished. That changed. Yeah, this is a very important lesson. So if a person can't control his meisim, he's a goner. In order to gain some control over yourself, you have to begin with meisim. And here comes, if you deal with your meisim, you can begin to control your speech. Everybody heard of Shmiras Halosh? Wonderful undertaking. You know how many people tried to be shomer their loshen? It didn't work. You know how many people I know who learn religiously their two halachas from the Chavetz Chaim a day, and they talk all the lashon hara in the world? It's because those people have no control over their meisim. If you don't have control over your meisim, you have no control over your speech. And if you don't have control over your speech, your machshavos, oy vavoy, avazelach machshavos. What goes on in your mind is shreklach. And you got an announcement. Loose cannon, loose actions, loose minds. Now this time of the year, from Shmois to Mishpatim, is the time when a person works on himself. And it's the time of the year where these few short weeks, a person can be kaina and make tremendous gains in this area. And I want to teach you and share with you some steps how to do that. But first, I want to teach you, make you aware of something that you're surely aware of, what the HaRav has told you. What do you think? I can be a parush? What do you think? I can be a chassid? I'm a regular guy. What do you want from me? You're never going to control yourself. You've been a loose cannon since you were born. Your mother told you that when you were little you couldn't stop talking. You talked in your crib to yourself, you talked to your dolls, you talked to your monsters, you talked to your pillow. You never stopped since then. And your thoughts, you had them yoinas. You imagine monsters, you imagine you're a cowboy, you imagine you're a fireman, you imagine you're a policeman, then you imagine who knows what. But you never stop. You know why? You're never going to get control over yourself unless you put yourself into some sort of program. Without a program, you're not going to change. So, how do you get the program? Do I have to see a therapist? Many people might tell you. I once met a bacher who had a very difficult time controlling his meisim. He was such an addict that he did Aveiras 365 days a year, l'rabbis, Rosh Hashanah v'Yom HaKippurim. And he told me he did it for 8 years straight. You know what kind of Aveiras that is? Shimon, could you imagine that? I can't. And he was a good bacher. I'm telling you, he was a bacher, I was a maspid. He pushed the HaRav, had him convinced that he could not function, and it was kulei l'shem shamayim, which was another thing that Reb Aaron Leib detested. He detested 2 words. He detested Mesiras Nefesh, or Moiseh Nefesh, and he detested l'shem shamayim. He said, no one's Moiseh Nefesh m'dreit that cup. A guy thinks, he pushes himself for just a drop. Achmed Moiseh Nefesh. Yen is Moiseh Nefesh. And l'shem shamayim, what's l'shem shamayim? He said, Efshe, oich, 1% l'shem shamayim. That's what you have to try for. He told this fellow, Yisroel Friedman, he said, you're writing at your TED, right? Write articles. He said, yeah. It's l'shem shamayim, right? He said, l'shem gonisht. He said, sit yourself down with your HaRav. And the HaRav is going to tell you, write the articles to make parnasa. And you're going to say, okay, masking. Then he's going to tell you, write the articles to get covered. No, be masking. Then he's going to tell you, write the articles to get even with the people or the groups you want to get even with. You have a pen, a power, a pen, you can write, you could nicely, politically correct, shtach, zagai people, maskim. After all that, tell the HaRav, okay, I gave in to you on everything. Now, let me ask you something. Let me machal abyssal l'shem shamayim. No, after the maskim zayin. But only after you gave in to, here I understood people. Here I was yored to the zach. A person has to know, you have to make yourself, that fellow, by the way, I told him you can get cured. You could get cured. You can get out of Mitzrayim. I don't care what level you're on. You're a decent bacher, you daven well, you learn good, you want to get out, HaRav has you wrapped in a plastic saran wrap. He has you wrapped, packaged, you're pushing, you can't move. He has you convinced that you can't daven, you can't learn, you can't sleep, you can't function without. I told the guy, get out of it. But you're going to need therapy. Went to therapy, I worked with him, and I was Yaitz of Mitzrayim, the guy. There's only one cure. You gotta get married. Don't gotta get married. You'll get married if you get some control of yourself. You can't get married. And Baruch Hashem, he got married a year later. After he got out of his Mitzrayim. So where do you start? Where do you begin the program? Do you begin with your machshavas? No. Do you begin with your diburim? No, lechai. You know what you begin with? Your ma'asim, your actions. Now, how do you begin with the actions? So one of the Rishonim, Vaeira Avram ben David, a giant, he was known as the Ravid HaShlishi. He wrote a sefer called Bali Nefesh, and in that sefer he has a shar called Shar HaKedusha. And on that sefer, Rabbeinu Zrachia Halevi, the Heilig Rabbeinu Zrachia, wrote Hagoyos on that sefer. And at the beginning of Shar HaKedusha, he writes a little poem. How this, he doesn't argue with him. It's Kulei Machmadim, Kulei Mamtakim. He writes this parak is mamish hafle v'fel. Alles was schreibt dort ist richtig. And what he writes over there is, how do you begin to be machnia a person's yetzer hara? And he says like this: it's by David HaMelech. Chazal tell us his Yisroel was chazak v'kosh, powerful. V'hayetzarech lasois imoy milchama b'chol yoy. David HaMelech had a battle his Yitzhara every day. So if you think he was some kind of natural born tzaddik, he wasn't. And he was like the Kivan Shara. He saw that he couldn't deal with this Muhammad. So know what he decided? Amad v'hargai. He said only one way. I can't fight with the Yitzhak. I gotta kill him. So he killed him. It says. Yesh mi Tiferes, some say he killed it through fasting, through sack. Yesh mi Tiferes, that he did it. He was Pirish min ha'isha legamri. Kira, because he saw shemitoicha heter, he sisai el ha'isr. From the heter, it was guiding him, it was drawing him to the isr. And he says, ubein kidivrei, whether this way or this way, he saw his yetzer hara was misgaber alav. He made it his business lahachniyai v'nilchamimai until he completely destroyed it. What does that have to do with me? Matav HaMelech. So K'taravid v'chein kol adam has to do this. Everybody, he says, first has to know his teva. And now the Ravid comes and he blessed us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu enabled the Ravid Beruach Kodshay to get some advice, to get a program, and give the world a program to which the Rishonim devoured. The Rishonim bring this down many a time. Rabbi Yonin, you say that Tshuva brings us down. All over they bring it down. And let's follow the program because it's a very simple program. You don't need long-term therapy. He comes and he says, at the first thing that everybody thinks, he says, to be machnia yetzer hara, he says, you got to start withholding your guf from pleasures. Don't feed your guf all the pleasures. I remember I once heard from HaRav, I thought he was a Rav, a foolish thing. He said he suggests that all Bachrim should focus on Taivas Achil. That's his Eitz Taiva. Because since it's a allowable kosher thing, they should eat kosher. Pig out! That was his lashon. They should go for the goal. Let them do sports. Let them do whatever physical desires they have. Let them give into it. And then they'll channel their taivas toward that. That's the biggest shtus at Shayach. Because if a person encourages his tainugim, there's not going to be any way you're going to get speared. There's no such thing as directing your energy into sports. If you direct your tainugim, aguf, into food, and to sports, and to other things, you will end up with all the Yeitzaras, with all the Gabi Yeitzaras and cold over us. Know where it says that? In the Ravid. But the guy in SHLITA in Perek Beis also writes like that. He says a person should not say, let me go, and I'm going to follow, I'm going to give myself, I'm going to sow my oats, I'm going to give myself the opportunity to follow my taivas and my chemdes, and then afterwards I'll get it out of my system. Another chachma that parents have. Let them get it out of their system. He says, Kimi kivin shemaschil limshach achareim. If a person begins to be nimshach achareim, nitrad, he's going to become obsessed. The hoylech is going to leave the chayim hanitzchim. He's going to leave the eternal life. The af, he says, mishiyesh by Torah umitzvahs. Even if you have Torah mitzvahs, kishetimshach achar taiva, when you're going to be drawn after the taiva, you're finished. You're gone. The even akol, you're going to lose it all. So anytime you hear such a shtuz, run from such narishkeit. So what's the eitzah? So the Ravid says, in order for a person to get control over his taivas, all the taivas are intermingled. It's not separate sugyas. It's not the pshat, show me somebody who's a big bal taiva achila. That other areas, he's a kaddish. No. So all one zach. He says the eitzah hayutza is the roya hageder, he calls it hageder hagodom, the hashmira hamula, the haderach hatoif. Yeah, this what? This is gold for a person to machnia his yetzer. He says, limit yourself from your pleasures and tainugim in food and drink. Yeah, that. Limit. Now, he doesn't say that, it's interesting, he doesn't say like go cold turkey. It's very interesting, he says. Give yourself something in exchange for the miyut that you have. If a guy declares, I am tainug free, that's drastic, he says. Tainug free. You know what he should give himself? Enjoy good smells this summer. Let him enjoy rechitza b'chamin, hot showers, because it's geschmack. And he says, the little meichel that you do eat, it should be misukad, prepared well. Don't eat it without salt, or without sugar, or without your cinnamon. No. And it should be metuvel yafa, spiced well. Ba'avur asher ya'arav, he should enjoy what he's doing. He should enjoy eating. To go from not enjoying eating is not the way to do it. And he says, and your nefesh will be able to accept this, and it'll be appeased when you limit from it the meichel and the mission. Now, how do you do that, he says? Interesting. He says, Lo'olam yaniach ma'at. A person should begin the withdrawal by leaving a little bit over on his plate. Do not fill yourself up completely when you eat. Surely don't go for a second portion, and not a third. But when you take that first portion, make sure you leave over a little bit. Don't be a wine drinker, he says. What he says. This is a tremendous insight, what he just told us. In order to be a moishel on your taivas, in order to be machni yourself, you can gain tremendous self-control over your taivas. You know how? Just by not giving into them completely. Just by stopping. You take 3 cookies, so you say, I'm only going to have 2. But I want 3. And then you get a frumi yitzhar. What about a kizayas? What about a kibeya? You know, yitzhar comes to you with baltashkas. All of a sudden you worry about baltashkas. And not else health. It is a self-control program. Never fulfill your taifa. Ben Yoina calls him Echad Mechaside Oilam. It is. He says, don't go, no meat. Don't say, I'm not going to drink wine. No. He says, just leave over from your food something. Now, does this sound easy, Elchanan?
Sounds easy, but it's not.
Sounds easy. When I first saw it, I said, this cakewalk. Cakewalk. There's nothing. A piece of cake. It's a pellet. You don't realize what your type is. This is what happens. First you have to have a shaila how much to leave over. So the Torah tells you, you know what? Instead of leaving over, take an extra portion. Instead of taking 2 dishes, take 2 up front, 2 scoops of the big mashed potatoes, and then you leave over a half a scoop. You chop the right extra half of the Vaeira. Isn't that called Tainus HaRav? That's not called Tainus HaRav. No. Or he tells you, you don't have to leave out such a big. He says, Ma'ad. Who says what's the shear? Who can Vaeira? So you take one more little bit. Then you take nach a little bit. Then you leave over. You figure, this is my pockets we can share. Let me finish up already. And you finish it up. That's what happened. You don't realize how sick human beings are. You don't realize the control over simple things that you would not be hiring for. You would not be Moshe Nefesh for. But just to eat another piece of potato chips. It's already there. Not one more French fry. How many do you live on? These are good fries. Yeah, good fries. What if you go to a place and they have what's called truffle fries? Well, went with somebody once, with a Rav, I went to a place, he said, so you have to try this. Rebbe says, try this. This is truffle fries. You have to imagine a lot that it's special fries. Imagine the dimming that works. But, you want to leave, so I left over a few, he said, you gonna leave those over? He said, it's baltashkas. So I said, listen, I don't get a chance. First time I'm eating truffle fries. So I'll leave over a few, big deal. He said, "No, that's baltashkas." He puts his hand across, grabs the fries, and he puts them in his mouth. But a person has to understand that it's simple. Now, there are a lot of variations of this. The Alter from Kelm said a variation of this is if a person, in middle of his eating the French fries, he stops. In middle of eating the chicken, he pauses. And he halts a hand. Everybody looks around, everybody else is going weiter, they're digging in. You don't realize. I remember there was a bach when I was in yeshiva, he was local, he was very smitten, he was obsessed with food. And he hated to be mafsik in the middle of his meal. So what he did was, he would eat after everybody finished. What would he do? Sadly, I watched him many times, I even helped him sometimes. He would go around the plates, and if any chicken was left on the bone, he would pull it off and put it on a plate. And he always had a little heaping mountain. If a guy left the pulky, he took the pulky. But he put all the chicken off first. And it had to be mountain of chicken on the plate. No bones. He didn't want any yikuvim. No manias. Nothing getting in the way. And he took the fork. He held the fork like this in, like this. It was funny to watch. People used to laugh, and he laughed with them. It was never. And I mean, he weighed 400 pounds, but it was my roommate. It was Rachmanis. You think you're not any different? We're not different. Now, he did it on a bigger staker. But a person has to realize, the HaRav says that if a person starts with mice, achila is mice. It's not machshav, it's not deep. It's the lowest level. The HaRav tells me you want to be machniya your yetzer hara. You want to get a hold of yourself and be able to hold yourself back from other mice and roim. You want to be able to stop yourself from diburim roim. You want to be able to stop machshavas royas. This is where the hunt licked bagram. This is where the dog is buried. Take yourself in the hands and say, I'm not. But the kind, Rabbi Yain explains, it only works if you do it l'kvoid habayri. You have to do it l'kvoid habayri, not because you're on a diet. He says, Val yoichal kidei tavos, don't fill yourself to the fill. The derech ze, this derech yimna enu michet, is going to be mainei you from chet. You understand what it says over here? That's the ikar tshuva. That's the ikar tshuva and the ikar process. Zayda had a minute when he used to eat breakfast. He used to take one spoon, put it in his mouth, and put the spoon down on the plate and on the table, and stop. I won't be surprised that was one of his cheshbonos. He said he was thinking about how enjoyable each spoonful was. He wanted to appreciate each spoonful, the chesed Hashem, that Hashem was doing. Understand this? He says, you know what this is going to do to you? This is going to be mazkir you. This is going to develop in you avas habayre more than a tainus echad b'shavua. Hashem's going to love you also. You want to make Hashem love you? That's how you make Hashem love you. Yeah, simple answer. Simple answer. Start taking yourself in your hands. Kizeh b'chol yom tamid. Better than fasting all day. Every time you drink, every time you eat, yeniach mitavosai l'chvoid habayri. That's called shviras hayetzer. Say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I want to control myself. I want to get my yetzer hara under my control. This is a nerdike chesed, Rabbi said, we have over here. In these weeks, when you read about Yetzias Mitzrayim, and these are the weeks that are designated for this. So let us start right now, immediately, undertaking this. Even if you do it for a little while and you see the Tiferes, and you see that it helps you be machniah yourself, you will be way ahead of the game. You'll be a very lucky man. So therefore, let us daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give us the will to carry this out. Let us daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we can become an epis, and an epis, and an epis, instead of becoming ephes, ephes, ephes.